Good morning and happy 4th of July, guys. Welcome into Wake and Take. It's Jason, and today I'll be joined with a very special guest, Dario Offstein, the Player Profiler's head of data and analytics, joining me today to give you some mind-blowing firework projections, if you will. Try to shoehorn a little 4th of July stuff in there, but it's not a big deal. It's going to be fun. We've got a great show lined up. Dario has some great projections to blow your guys' mind. So go ahead, take out your coffee, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Dario, how's it going?
What's up, Jason? How you doing?
Doing all right, man. Where are you at?
I'm actually in Washington right now, just on the outskirts of Olympic National Park. As you can see, there's some very scenic traffic behind me here. But as our listeners know, I am in the van once again. So very happy to be out and about. Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, Dario has a van that he's kind of been traveling around the country with. Last year, you went to every single NFL stadium, while, of course, keeping your role of the head of data at Player Profiler, director of analytics, all of that stuff, however you want to word it. You're our numbers guy, and you do a fantastic job. Why don't you go ahead and tell the audience just a little bit about kind of what you and the data team are doing on the back end of Player Profiler?
Yeah, I mean, basically in season, every single player metric you see on the site, all the player rankings, all the player projections, everything you look up in data analysis is something I've had my hands on, basically. So all of the work that goes into preparing those stats, organizing, it's like organizing how we organize those stats, where everything goes, how that all gets to where it needs to be, and making decisions along those lines, like coming up with new stats, injury finder, breakout finder, running stuff like that are more like predictive analytics projects and that sort of thing. It's kind of my bread and butter. I mean, we also have guys that help with the charting, the dynasty rankings, everything as far as like, if you see a number on playerprofiler.com, like I could probably tell you where it came from and how we are calculating that. So that's how I'd like to think of my job.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of keep the website afloat. I mean, it's almost nothing without the data team. Lots of great stuff that you and your team put together at Player Profiler. I know the audience loves using our website and all the apps that you've put together. So thank you for all your hard work. Thank you to your data team, of course. And I'm excited to hear what you have for us today. I know that I have prompted you to give us some, kind of mind-blowing projections that you guys have put together as you get our rankings in order coming up to the 2024 football season. So why don't you go ahead and just give us the first one? What's a good one? Who's out there?
Yeah, I mean, I hope these fireworks don't disappoint. But someone that I'm expecting fireworks from this season, I think, and this projection might sound a little modest, but I think the ceiling is really there, is Hollywood Brown. I mean, we have him penciled in for 134 targets from Patrick Mahomes. And most importantly, a lot more efficiency than he's seen in his recent past when he was with the Cardinals. I think we're going to be seeing higher yards per reception, higher touchdown rate, all these things. I mean, I think the Chiefs clearly saw that they were lacking speed on offense last year. They drafted Xavier Worthy. They signed Hollywood Brown. They're clearly making some moves in that direction this offseason, and I think that they're going to be much more explosive in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. The way the Chiefs offense is gearing up, you're expecting them to pass as always, but kind of the one big question is how Hollywood Brown is going to fit in here. Kind of flamed out a little bit in Arizona last season, but he still has shown us, at least a couple good seasons, especially from a points per game basis. 134 targets would be incredible. I mean, that's what like Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley, and some other players around that range last year got. Where would that put him at the end of the season, do you think?
I mean, it's funny that you ask, because let me see off the top of our head. I don't think we have it would take me a second to pull up exactly how many players we have projected for more than that. But I mean, last year, let's go to playerprofiler.com and see
yeah, fair enough.
What we have to say. Hollywood Brown. He's currently 57 in our number 57 in our best ball rankings.
Yeah.
Last year he had 101 targets, and that was good for 34th in the league. So we're projecting him for 30 more targets than that.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a top 20 number, safe to say.
Yeah, and and coming from Patrick Mahomes, that's a pretty big season. Do you have the projections up for Xavier Worthy's targets?
Yeah, Xavier Worthy, I mean, I think we've seen some slow, Rashee Rice last year is probably as good of a rookie season you can hope for a Chiefs wide receiver. I mean, we know that Worthy is going to produce in a different style just based on his speed and his downfield profile. But we have him only projected for 95 targets, which still feels like it's a pretty good, you'd have to be pretty involved pretty early on in the season to get to that. He's being absolutely juiced up draft boards right now, but for good reason. I think the excitement of that upside and the fact that those later weeks are what really matters at the end of the day in best ball, in your regular fantasy leagues, it's always weighted toward week 15, 16, 17, getting those big playoff numbers.
Right,
that's the reason you're drafting Xavier Worthy right now.
For sure. So I guess I have to ask, if we're still on the Chiefs subject here, with these, they're 134 for Marquise Brown, 95 for Xavier Worthy. How many for Rashee Rice are you guys projecting within this? I guess how many games are played, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so Rashee Rice, I mean, we have him projected for 104 targets right now.
Okay.
I think that, like you said, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen with his status. He might get suspended. I think roughly what we're baking in is a 4-game suspension, which I think is a median range of outcomes right now. But it could be, it could be 6, could be 2, and that's going to affect where he gets drafted. I'd be surprised if it's any more than 6. And I think that, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where at some point in the off season, if nothing has come out yet, it might take another season. I mean, I'm sure you remember with Alvin Kamara a couple off seasons ago, everyone thought, oh man, like that suspension's going to hit, and then it never materialized that season. It took a whole other year for the NFL to come in and get that discipline off the ground. So that could always be the case with Rashee Rice this year, and we haven't really heard anything about those proceedings moving forward.
Right.
But I think right now the general fantasy community is operating under the assumption that suspension will take place this year.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. I mean, still over 100 targets projected for him. And then, so basically, right now, Hollywood Brown is projected to lead the Chiefs in targets, or do we have Kelsey a little ahead?
We have him narrowly ahead of Kelsey.
Okay, nice.
So it's tight. I think part of the logic behind that, too, is just from a rankings standpoint of, like, you don't need to put Kelsey at a 25% target share for him to be an elite tight end. Given his efficiency, his rapport with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we have him at 19%. He's probably going to end up somewhere between 20 and 22, but he has been sort of tailing off the last couple of years. Even last season, we saw that it seemed like they were kind of like limiting his workload regular season, and they knew how to ramp him up in the postseason. So I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Travis Kelce continues just seeing a slight decline in his regular season usage, and then they know they can go to him in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they're going to do. It's kind of what they did last year, too, where they kind of just coasted him throughout the season and then really leaned into him to the playoffs. So I like these projections a lot, making me happy for my Hollywood Brown bags that I've kind of been holding.
Yeah, I've been on the Hollywood Brown train since he was on the Ravens. I think that he's a legit target earner, and he's shown some really solid efficiency. I feel like he's one of those guys that's really frustrating to own in seasonal leagues where he just – he'll burn you on the bench and go off for 30 points, and then you start him 3 weeks in a row, and those 3 weeks will total 10 points. So he's just one of those guys that's definitely better in best ball type of profile. Our projection has him wide receiver 34 right now, but like we were just saying, I think on the weeks that Rashee Rice is inactive, we're probably going to have him easily penciled in for 25% targets that week, and he'll be a mid-range wide receiver too. Those first few weeks of the season would be my guess. So I like our odds for him, and I think that the excitement around him is justified right now for sure.
Nice. I love it. I guess before we move on from the Chiefs, you don't even have to tell us what the projections are, but is it officially time to give up on Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney?
Yeah, actually, it was officially time like 8 months ago or so, like 8 to 10 months ago, I would say, maybe like October of last year. That was officially time. Right now, it's officially past time.
It's officially past time. It's over, guys. Just drop them. Just drop them.
Yeah,
we'll move on.
Every format, please.
Every single one. You know what? Whatever. It's funny. He went Sky Moore and Kadarius. Maybe not Kadarius. Sky Moore, at least in the Wake and Take, we did a 32-team startup a couple weeks ago, and he went drafted after Louis Rees-Sammet. It's just like the new rugby guy.
Yeah, that's a deep league, boys.
Well, you know, we have a daily show. We might as well have a deep league. Let's go ahead and move on to your next projection. This is a fun one here. Take us away.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about this backfield because it made such a newsflash, it's the Dolphins. And they had such a splash on they really swung fantasy leagues last year. If you think about what Devon Achane did those couple weeks, I mean, obviously it was like week 4 or something, so nobody won their league because of it. But the ceiling that Devon Achane showed in a couple of those big games, Raheem Mostert obviously leading the league in rushing touchdowns last season. Mm-hmm. And this year they drafted Jalen Wright in the 4th round, who's really, I mean, he's kind of not quite as fast as Achane, but similar, like kind of the closest comp you could have found in this running back class. And I mean, we know that getting that round 4 pick is significantly worse than getting drafted in round 3. Like that day 2 draft capital is something we really hope to see. But the efficiency that Achane showed last year, Mostert staying healthy for a whole season last year, and then Jalen Wright entering the picture. I mean, all 3 of these guys, I think there's reason to be excited about. And we currently have them projected Achane, Mostert, Wright, with Achane as RB11, Mostert as RB34, and Wright as RB59. And that's something to keep in mind with that projection is, like, yeah, we have him projected running back 59, but if you go to our rankings, he should be a decent bit higher than that. Let me check exactly where he comes out. But, I mean, he's running back 49. So he's one of those situations where, like, the upside is just really hard to capture in a projection. So we give him a boost, like an upside boost in the actual ranking of, hey, this is where you should be drafting him. The median outcome of how many points he scores might be lower than this, but the ceiling outcome means you should really be drafting him earlier. And I think that, I mean, we saw what Mostert did last year. We saw what Achane did last year. The efficiency in this offense is absolutely through the roof. And it's hard to see that changing. I mean, we know Mike McDaniel is like probably one of, if not the smartest coaches in the league when it comes to offensive play design and especially the running game. So it's just an exciting backfield to be getting pieces of. And I think the drafters know this. I mean, the underdog ADP on all 3 of these guys is insane. I think Achane is RB8 and Mostert is like RB 28, 27. And then Jalen Wright is also in the late 40s, like 48 on underdog. So definitely happy that we're giving him that upside boost. Honestly, all of these guys, I think, have some upside boost in our rankings relative to our projections, just because it's so hard to square that circle of, like, I'm not going to project an offense to be as efficient as Miami has been. Like, I mean, you kind of have to figure there's going to be some regression, but the ceiling and what we've seen so far is still significantly higher. Like you said, firework projections show for the 4th of July. Like, this is a running game that could definitely be having a lot of explosive runs. And I think I'm sure they led the league in explosive run plays last year.
They had to have. They might have done that in just the 1 week that both, like, Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert, like, what was that?
Yeah, when they put up 70 points on the Broncos.
yeah, like that. They probably did it that week. You know, didn't even need the rest of the season. Just what a week that was. And I love it. I've been taking mostly Jalen Wright, just the value play at this point. But I can't let Devon Achane beat me, even if I kind of hate how early he's going. Like, you still got to get some with how good he is, and you can't leave Raheem Mostert undrafted as well. Like these are all players that you need some exposure of right now.
Yeah.
I like that you guys.
And the thing with Wright is like, he's not just any running back who's as promised. Like the difference between, say, Wright and Roschon Johnson, who we like, who is the third running back on his depth chart right now, and is behind a couple other like fairly talented players in DeAndre Swift and Khalil Herbert. Like the difference between Herbert and Swift and Achane and Mostert is like, when have we seen Raheem Mostert stay healthy? Just last season. Mm-hmm. And Devon Achane couldn't stay healthy last season. We know that. I mean, he has explicitly told reporters like, hey, I'm working on getting my body to a point where I can survive a whole NFL season. I mean, so the fact that he's the third running back behind those two makes him, I think, that's the reason he's being drafted higher than a Roschon Johnson. Of course, also the fact that Miami is such an exciting offense, but it's like the combination of a clear path to opportunity given the injury track record of those two guys in front of him and his explosiveness and that offense. It's just like a recipe for success, I think, for all three of those guys. I want all three of them. I think you got to be getting shares of them, and it's a backfield you just want to be getting pieces of all around.
I love it. We'll go ahead and move on from the Dolphins to your next projection, which I'm curious to hear about. I've been not gonna lie, I've kind of been fading this player just because I can't really wrap my head around how this offense is going to divvy up their target. So I'm very excited that you brought up this guy just to kind of set.
Yeah, I mean, this is he's currently our tight end 3, and his name is Dalton Kincaid out of the University of Utah. I mean, we know he had a great rookie year last year. We haven't projected for 19% of the Bills' targets. That leads that offense, and I think the thing to keep in mind is he's been higher than this already. I mean, like during, I think it was like a 6 or 7 game stretch last year when Dawson Knox was not playing, we saw Dalton Kincaid hitting like 20 to 22% target share during that stretch. Absolutely elite tight end numbers. I mean, we were weekly projecting him as a top 5 tight end. And now Stephon Diggs is out of the picture. Gabe Davis is out of the picture. It's hard to see Dalton Kincaid failing as Josh Allen's number 1 weapon, because we do have him projected for the most targets in that offense right now. I mean, Curtis Samuel is going to come in and probably soak up another 100 targets or so, and then we'll see how much they actually end up playing Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir has shown some promising upside, but I mean, I think none of those guys have quite as much upside as Dalton Kincaid. And then you factor in the fact that Dalton Kincaid is a tight end, and the production that he has to have to be an elite producer at his position is so much lower of a bar than those wide receivers. I mean, we have Coleman for 17% at 101 targets, Samuel for 15.5% at 92 targets, and then Dalton Kincaid at 19% for 113 targets. But like I was saying, we've seen Kincaid get more targets or get a sustained higher target share for a good stretch than this. I mean, we have Dawson Knox still relevant with about a 6% target share. So I think that there's a good chance that Dalton Kincaid exceeds where he's being drafted right now. I think he's the tight end 6 in consensus right now. I mean, it's kind of a tight tier there with like him, Kyle Pitts. I know Mark Andrews is just ahead of those guys, but I think it's all clustered together. But we really like Dalton Kincaid. It's a bit of a flag plant for us in the projections right now.
I don't know. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little uncomfortable attacking this offense. I think that a 19% share does sound about right. I guess I'd be more so worried about the touchdown department. Do you have numbers for that?
Yeah, I mean, we have him projected for, let's see. It would be 9.5% touchdown rate for 8 touchdowns. I think Josh Allen is going to throw touchdowns to somebody. And Dalton Kincaid was a perfectly solid red zone weapon last year. I don't see that changing necessarily. And I think that, like you said, yeah, there's some concerns about the offense failing like systematically, but I think that Josh Allen is a good enough quarterback that he's going to throw at least 25, probably 30 touchdowns most seasons. and those have to go to somebody. And right now it looks like Dalton Kincaid could very well be the top weapon in this offense.
I guess blink twice if Theo is making you say this.
Yeah, I'm being held hostage. I'm not in Washington. I'm on Long Island.
I'll concede. I think that he will end up leading the Bills in targets. I need to grow some balls and just kind of attack it, because but this will be a.
You're too busy having a Falcons bias and drafting Kyle Pitts every time you're picking a tight end in that round.
Well, Kyle Pitts is going like rounds after Dalton Kincaid now somehow, and I can't. I
thought that gap was getting close. Yeah, I mean, I guess they're probably both getting steamed up right now.
Yeah, Kincaid, I think, let's see, underdog, tight end 5 right now. Let's see, Kyle Pitts, I think it's 6 or 7. 6. So,
yeah,
I guess it is getting tighter. We'll see. I'm very much excited for Kyle Pitts' season, but I think that, somebody's getting targets on the Bills. It's probably not a rookie, and it's probably not Curtis Samuel beating out at least the rookie or second year now, Dalton Kincaid.
Dalton Kincaid he's a certified baller.
He is. Let's take a quick break and hear just a little bit about the Dynasty Dominator.
Now, I know many of you are looking for a secret weapon for your Dynasty League, and I have it. It's called the Dynasty Dominator app. You go to the App Store, go to Google Play. It's right there. It's $5 to download, and then every year it's $5 to load the next incoming class of rookies. You can add Superflex, add tight end premium. It's incredible because it allows you to look up players. It allows you to vote on whether a player is a buy, hold, or sell, and then see the market sentiment on that player. And you can compare their lifetime value rating from PlayerProfiler to their Dynasty ADP at the FFPC, all in the price lookup tool. And beyond that, we have a trade analyzer, so you'll never lose another Dynasty trade again. And in our settings, you can set this is a win now team, this is a rebuilding team, and then we let you compare players. Look at their metrics side by side, prospect metrics, NFL metrics. It's all there. It's $5 in the App Store. There's some add-ons for Superflex and to buy the upcoming rookie class. Every year, you're going to spend $5 on this thing, and it's going to be well worth it.
It truly is worth it. Dario, I'm sure you have a ton to say about that particular app and others.
I remember the buy, sell, hold feature, the win now, rebuild option in the trade calculator. Like, those are things that I've been lucky to be a part of the building process of those, and it's really cool to see those features like out there in the world. Users have loved them. I mean, if you're thinking about dynasty trades and you're not thinking about like where your roster is at and whether or not you're actively trying to chase a championship that year or just accumulate value and youth, I mean, that's one of the biggest pieces of any dynasty trade. So I remember, the day that it's just like, it's interesting seeing, I've been at this company for 2 years now. So I remember when that was just like an idea that was out there in the ether to, okay, Dario, figure out the math. Okay, let's implement this and actually put it in the apps. So it's really cool to see that kind of full circle. And I know that our users have loved it. And we might have some cool new options coming in that department for the trade calculator. Hopefully later down the line this year, we'll see about that.
Yeah, I've heard some rumblings of some very cool stuff being in the works that I particularly am very, very, very excited for. Lots of stuff always going on behind the scenes here at Player Profiler. So you guys stay tuned. Dario, one thing that has been going on behind the scenes at Player Profiler, we just released them, are our Scott Fishbowl rankings. Just give us a little bit of why they're good, why they should go to us for it, but also just kind of some of the process.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the Scott Fishbowl is sick for a number of reasons. Obviously, the charitable causes and like just bringing the fantasy community together. But one thing that is really fascinating about it every year is just the crazy scoring formats that Scott Fish goes and cooks up in his lab. So this year, what he's done has really, I think it's going to affect all of the positions in a way that we have yet to know how it's totally going to unfold. But there were changes to the return yards scoring. There's slight tweaks to the tight end premium, and the passing yardage for quarterbacks has actually been sneakily cut in half for just how many fantasy points a passing yard is worth. So all of that together, I mean, you kind of need to look at each position group by group and think about, okay, what does this mean for these players? And I think there's going to be a lot of names shifted up and down in value within positions, across positions. I mean, the kickers are obviously still a big factor because you can flex as many of them as you want. And they're going to score 3.3 points for every extra point because of the yardage scoring. Mm-hmm. So the kickers, like, I mean, I think our top kicker in our Scott Fishbowl rankings is, I think, somewhere between 95 and 110. So like you can very well justify taking Harrison Butker or Justin Tucker in the 8th, 9th, 10th round because those guys are on offenses that are going to score a lot of touchdowns, and they're very good kickers that are going to be routinely trusted to launch like 50-plus yard bombs for their offenses. So, I mean, there's just a lot of angles to attack this thing. I mean, so like I said, that's the kickers. You have the tight end premium that's been slightly knocked down a notch. So, yeah. I mean, I think that there's still a strong tight end premium. It's half a point more per reception and a full point more per first down. And what that really means is those elite tight ends are just going to separate even more from the pack. Having one of those guys on your roster is going to be huge. I think Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, we were just talking about, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, those guys are going to have a chance to separate even more from the rest of the tight ends than they normally do in your fantasy leagues. And then because of the combined running back, or it's really a points per carry added, plus the fact that the passing yards, like we said, were halved. So you have this factor, these two factors that converge and really make rushing quarterbacks worth a lot more than we're used to perceiving them to be worth. So like, I wouldn't be opposed to someone saying, all right, I'm going to take Kyler Murray as the QB4 in this format ahead of Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to take Anthony Richardson as the QB4 ahead of Patrick Mahomes. You could take Jaden Daniels as the QB5 or 6 in this format. If I pull up our rankings, I don't want to give too much away here, but let's see.
He's up there. I'm looking at him. He's QB or just 15 overall. Jaden Daniels is, and I'm seeing some mocks. He's going in like the 3rd, 4th round. So, I mean, I think that that's an incredible steal if it keeps up. That's QB7.
Yeah. I mean, it's Scott Fishbowl mocks. I think each unique draft can go off the rails.
Yes.
So like, you never know what happens with those mocks, but I think the thing to keep in mind is it's a super flex league, but because of what's been done to the quarterback scoring, like a guy like Jared Goff might not be the best option you can put in your super flex. I mean, like if you have a wide receiver that is also his team's kick returner, he might be a better option for you as a super flex than a plain old pocket passer quarterback like a Jared Goff, like an Aaron Rodgers, frankly. So what that's really done is in our valuation of all these players, it's like really jacked up those top 3 quarterbacks. I mean, it's Allen, Jackson, and Hurts in that order at the top 3. Patrick Mahomes is a little further down than usual. And then I don't think it's going to be like your typical super flex drafts where you see, 15 quarterbacks in the first 2.5, 3 rounds. I think you might see more like 10 to 12 quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds and an emphasis toward those mobile quarterbacks. And then just kind of a gradual trickling off of those quarterbacks. But I think that you're going to want to get ahead of, like, if you get, if you've gotten an early pick and you can chase down your Jalen Hurts and your Josh Allen in this format, like by all means lock that down. And then, you're going to have that 3rd round reversal. So just hope that something good makes it back to you.
Yeah. This is my 3rd Scott Fishbowl. I've had the 12 hole every time. I love getting that 3-1. It's a fun one. I'm very much excited for the Scott Fishbowl. Very much excited that the rankings are out to kind of help me wrap around where I should be taking my stances. I've already kind of figured I was going to take a Jaden Daniels stance. Now I definitely will. And it's very exciting time. So shout out to your team for getting that out in time.
That was a big effort for me over the weekend. I think we got that posted up yesterday. Or I guess when this airs, it was on Tuesday. And then I'm excited to see the Scott Fishbowl teams start coming out and get those rolling.
Yeah, guys, so go find that, playerprofiler.com/rankings/player-rankings/type?= if you really want to get the full URL there. But you can find it pretty easily, especially if you just get the whole rankings package. And Dario, before I send you away, I would like you to just go ahead and plug everything that Player Profiler has to offer. Why should we get the all-in package? Why should we get the apps? Take us away.
Yeah, I mean, data analysis. We've talked about the rankings. We've talked about the Dynasty Dominator. We haven't even mentioned data analysis yet. I mean, data analysis is an absolutely sick tool for looking up just about any stat you can think of historically. You can pull up who was the top 5 in, yards per route run in 2017 or something like that. Whatever you want, it's there. Mm-hmm. And then you can do cross positions. You can filter. So it's like, okay, let me make sure they did a minimum of at least 200 snaps. You name it, you can do it in data analysis. Obviously, you can export whatever you come up with as CSVs. And then right now, I also really think people should know about what's happening with the injury finder. We just updated all of the descriptions. So all the guys with like notable injury histories that, have anything worth commenting on. We've had various like physical therapists, fantasy analysts. You guys know those like injury analysts over the years. They've contributed. This year it's Deepak Chona. He's contributed a few of these injury descriptions. So I'm very excited that people can get that. It's only, I think it's, similar to the Dynasty Dominator. It's $5 it's $5 to get the app, and then it's $5 each year thereafter. And I think that people have this perception that injuries are kind of just like fluky and, you can't really predict them, and why would you bother letting them affect your draft strategy? But the injury finder has actually proven otherwise multiple years in a row now. Like, I mean, if you look at just predicting which players are how likely to miss 2 or more games and the back testing on it, it's legit. And I it was one of those projects where when I was told like, hey, Dario, like go predict injuries, I was like, are we kidding? Like that's impossible, right? But no, it's actually proven to be stable and predictive within every position group across all of the last 2 years. I mean, even when the model was built, it was looking good, and then it's actually held up to testing in real life in the last 2 seasons since we created it. So definitely want to bump the injury finder as much as possible as the season gets closer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, hey, we've got Scott Fishbowl kicking off redraft season. Go find out those injury-prone players. It's a great app. All of the stuff that you and the whole Player Profiler team puts together, it's just really incredible. The audience knows it. We know it. Starting to sound like a certain someone right now. So get out of here. But Dario, is there anything else that we should be knowing about from the data team?
I think that's all for now. I mean, like you said, it's July. It's the Scott Fishbowl. So redraft is really getting around the corner now. Very exciting times. Thanks for having me on, Jason. And happy 4th of July to all our viewers out there.
Yeah, man. Thanks for joining me. Happy 4th of July to you. This was a very fun episode. Audience, I hope you guys enjoy the holiday and the rest of your weekend. Make sure you tune into tomorrow's episode with Aaron St. Dennis as we go over some other trending topics and NFL news. And then, of course, we'll be back over the weekend. Enjoy the holidays, guys. Have a wonderful Thursday, 4th of July, and a fantastic rest of your week. Peace.